Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the official first call when we've actually read some chapters, right? Last week we did the kickoff, and I was, really excited about this book because I think most of us struggle with this area of what to say when we talk to ourselves. I know most of us kind of deal with that all day long. As you read in the book, it kind of talks about that. So what I'd like to do when we do these calls is really leave this for you guys. This isn't about Trish teaching or Juliana teaching. This is really just about us kind of giving our thoughts, but all of us getting a chance to really say what kind of resonated with you or areas that you may struggle with as we get through more of the chapters. I like to share often the thoughts of, I always say what you focus on, you'll manifest in your life. I'm a true believer in that. I mean, when you talk about people who go to medical school and they're focused so intensely on studying different diseases, they tend to manifest those symptoms within them because they're studying them, constantly. So next thing you know, they think they're dying of malaria or monkeypox or, whatever it may be, because that's what they're focused on. So we want to make sure that we put into our heads the good stuff. So Juliana, I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to you. What kind of thoughts do you want to use to kind of kick us off?
Oh, gosh. Okay. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So like you said before, what you think about, what you think about, what you talk about, you bring about. And whatever you're focused on, it just grows. And, this whole concept of, that little voice in your head, what you are telling yourself, that builds your belief or it destroys your belief. Or, and so when you're saying, I'm broke, your brain is working to make yourself right. And guess what? You're broke. Instead of, I'm going to find the money to do it, or every time you say something out loud. Like I was listening to a podcast today, and this man and his wife, they decided, because they had a lot of time when they were broke. They decided that they were going to, for their little girl, every time she asked them, oh, let's do this, and they didn't have the money, they were not going to say those words, we can't afford it, we're broke, we don't have the money. They were going to say, oh, we're not going to do that this time, we're doing this instead. Anything not to confess those words, I don't have the money, I'm broke, or whatever. Because every time you say those words out loud, that just puts it in your head. It just puts it in your head, and that's what you manifest because it's in your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is always working to make you right. And whatever you're saying, that's what it's going to manifest.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times if you think about it in terms of your brain being like a jukebox, think of it as it's got all these different records that are in there. And if you're playing the same old sad song, you kind of got to figure out a way to kind of scratch up that record and play a new record. I saw this really interesting piece that I was reading. I was kind of just studying self-talk and going beyond the book. And one of the things that I read was that negative self-talk actually leads to anxiety and depression. And most people actually start believing their own propaganda and bring about what they fear the most. So if you focus on negativity and you're never going to have money, or you're never going to amount to this, or you're never going to do this, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why they tell you the worst thing you could ever do to a child as a parent, tell them negative things, because then it sits in their head and they believe that. I saw that very evident with my sister-in-law, who has a huge struggle with weight. If you saw her now, you'd never believe she ever had a struggle with weight. But my father-in-law, I think in his way of trying to help her deal with some of her weight issues, maybe called her pudgy or chubby or whatever it may have been when she was growing up. And when she couldn't lose the weight when she got to high school, that self-talk was in her head. And so she didn't know of any way to get rid of it other than using things we shouldn't use. And she actually became addicted to methamphetamine because that kept her skinny, right? It still allowed her to do all the things that she wanted to do, which was eat and do all those great things. But she didn't gain any weight, or she didn't eat for a while because she was constantly on meth. And that still is in her head. She still struggles with that today at 45 years old, actually. She's a year and a half younger than me, but she still struggles with that. I mean, that is so many years of self-talk that she kept repeating to herself after her father had just put it in there unknowingly, right? You even read in the book, they talk about things that we learn as children that we say to ourselves that just keep there and keep going and going and going. And she still struggles with that. You know, I mean, that's why she's really, really conscious of every tiny little thing she puts into her body, because she's still got that. She hasn't been able to break that habit. So what I want to hear from you guys today is a little bit about, you know, what you took away from your first 6 chapters. Don't feel like you have to be perfect about it, but just, you know, real quick, kind of like your first thoughts of getting this book kicked off. Shay, I see you're on mute, so I'm going to wait for you to pop off mute. But if any of you guys want to, you know, kind of take off mute really quick and just kind of share, Norma, Irene, Beth, Brandy, Debbie, you know, let's I'm going to kind of go from the top. So Debbie, you're on my top left, so I'm going to start with you. You know, give us your, you know, first thoughts of this book and what you're hoping to get from, you know, the book study.
Well, part of it, I think, is what he says is true. You're conditioned as you're growing up, you know, and I was always taught, you know, or told that, you know, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't this, I wasn't that, you know, the whole family, nobody's going to make anything out of themselves. And, you know, I've actually come a pretty long way in my career, and because I was determined that I was not going to let that get to me, and they were not going to be right. Not that everything has been perfect, but I fully agree with that it is conditioned into you, and unless you break away from that, you're always going to have it there. I still have it in the back of my mind that, you know, on certain things I'm not good enough, you know, like being a silver ambassador, you know, working day in and day out, trying to go up and, you know, in rank and get more customers. And I have to continually tell myself, you can do this, you know, don't let it get you down if you don't get this customer, or if you don't do that, you know. And it's the same thing in my day job, and it's a pretty crazy job. I'm a scheduler for Air Force crews, so it's pretty busy, but you have to keep the negative thoughts out, and you have to try to believe in yourself and just do the best you can do, and don't listen to the negativity of other people.
If you were to pick one self-defeating thought that you think you really struggle with, what do you think is the biggest one? I know you kind of touched upon being silver and going up the ranks, but what do you think kind of you feel that, you know, kind of mulls over in your head?
Probably comparison, you know.
You're not good enough.
I've tried to get away from that, because, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm helping people, and I'm happy that, you know, I love my products. I love our team. I think everybody's great. Our leaders are fantastic. I'm going to convention, yay. So, you know, I'm just going to keep pushing forward and just keep doing the best I can do, and not compare myself to others, and, you know, keep in my head, keep saying, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I think this was one of our calls the other night. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, you know, we forget that everyone has these thoughts. It's not like because you read this book that we're all of a sudden going to not have self-defeating thoughts. It's still going to go in there, but you will now have tools in which to change that, right? Those are always a choice. You can focus on those, you can manifest on them, you can camp on them. But even Tamara Holloway has said things along the lines of, you know, there's a lot of people that are diamonds that are John Maxwell speakers, right? She said, you know, that's not who I am. But she had that feeling of, everyone else is one. Like, am I supposed to be one too? I'll use even my close friend Amy Sage, who was the 4th diamond in this company. I sat with her at Jules training, and we roomed together, so we had a lot of chance to kind of chat about some things. You know, she sits there and compares herself to Sheila Medina, who was the 1st diamond, and is her level 3, and feeling like there's concern there. You know, I mean, like, we forget that it doesn't matter where you're at in this business. Those feelings go into your head. It's just a matter on whether or not you give them a home to live, right?
Right.
So I'm going to continue on. So on the right-hand side of me is Shay. So Shay, what did you take away? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, pretty much the same thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
I
can.
had to turn everything down because my son cannot quit making noise. Sorry. Um,
Okay.
on the page 23, that what is stored there for most of us was decided by someone else. And I think that is absolutely accurate with me, like with Debbie, that someone else said, you need money to make money. Home businesses are all a scam. And I think even though I believe in Plexus and I've recommitted to the business, a lot of that is still there and I'm trying to come around it. And I've read the book before, and one of those, you read it, you feel good, and then you set it down and go on. So I've recommitted to stay in more Plexus oriented groups. Going to convention, I've already booked my room and everything,
Great.
which I haven't done in the past. I'm making myself do it. So I'm excited and looking forward to it all at this point. And this, I think, is going to be a huge step, the book, and connecting with everyone.
Well, and that's what the hope is on this one, right? It's not about that we're all going to be perfect. We're not all going to read the book once and be like, okay, we got it. You've got to continuously feed yourself. It's like you can't go to the gym once or twice or even lose the weight and then never go back to the gym and expect it to all be perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
we can all use Plexus as an example. Many of us have had amazing, amazing results. But as soon as we go off course, okay, I know because I've had conversations with many of you on this call. We have gone down paths where we think we've got it under control. We maybe cheat a little bit on the food. We may not be as perfect with taking our products, whatever it may be, and we start to go the other way. If we're not consistent and every day doing that, it doesn't work. It's the same thing. If you don't consistently put good stuff in, not good stuff comes out, and I can see it because I know for a fact if I don't start my morning the right way every single day with meditation and gratitude, I will tell you my day is off kilter. And it's not to say that all day long I don't get hit sideways, but it's like I got to constantly be like, okay, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And you're like constantly speaking to yourself because you have to put that step in. So next I'm going to go down to Irene. Irene, I know you've been super excited about this group. You've been, very, very vocal on being excited about this. So tell me, first 6 chapters, what are you taking away so far?
I think the thing that stood out to me the most was like how many notes we've heard just up to like say in our 20s or any, I think it had the 148,000, and I'm like, it's so true. How many times have we been told, whether it was from a good place, they were just trying to protect us and, whatnot. I think that that's really what stood out to me the most because I was like, that's so true. I mean, we just don't know how to separate, is it because they were trying to protect us or is it because they were just being negative? And even in our day-to-day life, I think, especially like I work, at a place where it's just 4 of us in the office. But one of the ladies, she's constantly just like saying all kinds of negative stuff. And she's like, how do you stay so positive? And I'm like, I work at it every day. I said, when y'all are being extra negative, and I tell her, when y'all are being extra negative and spreading that energy, I put my headphones on, and I zone y'all out and I work away and I'm putting good stuff into my ear as I'm working, I said, because I can't absorb y'all's energy, and unfortunately, I think, or I guess fortunately, is that we have groups like this, that it teaches us to rebound a little bit faster,
Right.
From those thoughts, because we're still going to, like you said, we're still going to have them, but by studying and, putting the good stuff back in, it makes it faster for us to bounce back from that.
Exactly. I had a conversation with a gentleman today. I was chatting with a CEO of a company, and we were, kind of talking through self-talk. It just was interesting that actually is something he teaches on. Oh. And it was a client of mine, and he was talking about, he does classes at USC and UCLA, and he talks about self-talk. So it was really kind of exciting to kind of chat with him a little bit and, really kind of tell him that I'm reading this book, right? So we had a little bit of a conversation, but really, truly, you've got to put good stuff in if you want good stuff to come out, and you've got to replenish your cup and fill it up. If you don't have a filled up cup, you're not going to be any good to anybody, and you're certainly not going to be good to yourself. Because I know if you're like me, we're often telling other people the good information. Like I'll be like, hey, Debbie, you can do this. You can get another, you can get another ambassador. You can do this. You can do that. But we don't have to do it to ourselves, right? We're so down on ourselves, and we spend so much time, we never speak to our best friend like that. So why would we speak to ourselves that way, right? It's just kind of crazy. And to your point, Irene, that's the first word kids learn, right? Is no.
Right.
No. And remember that 2-year-old that's like, no, and then you're like, no. And that's all they say. So it's kind of, it's kind of interesting that we kind of have learned that as a society, and we don't realize we're even teaching it to people really early on. So Norma, what about you?
Wow. This is my third time going through this book. What's interesting for me, I'm very good at manifesting. Always have been. The one thing, though, that I've never really been able to manifest is anything relating to money. So it's kind of interesting for me to kind of watch some of these things as I'm reading along, because being the third time, it's like reading it again for the first time. I think is something that I personally am going to have to go back to like every 6 months or keep myself on track, because I had a negative influence person move in with me years ago, and that negativity started creeping in to my lifestyle and my life. And all of a sudden, I'm like starting to read this, earlier on this week, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know better. Oh my gosh, these words are coming, like I can't believe some of these things that have been coming out of my mouth lately. Like, I'm 63, okay? I'm like, oh, well, I don't have the energy I used to have when I was younger. What is wrong with me? I can't believe those things. And that's what I'm putting in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, I get home from work and I'm just spent. So it's been very eye-opening. I really am looking at what I'm saying to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, I don't know if you are aware, but I was told just before Christmas that I needed to find a new place to live. So last Sunday, talked to the landlord. We have a date now that's set, blah, blah. And I thought, well, let's just put this to the test. So I wrote down a list. My mom taught me this when I was in high school. Make a list, like of the kind of guy you want in your life, the lifestyle you want to live. Make it a list, kind of like a dream board.
Right.
You put this list together of all the things you want. So I did that because I hadn't been having any luck whatsoever. So I made this list on Monday morning. Tuesday afternoon, I get a call, and this guy says, hey, I got this place. You want to take a look at it? Went out and looked at it, and they went, last night, I said, well, I did really good, except I didn't specify location, because it's all about location, right?
Location.
Exactly. So I redid my list. I'm going tomorrow to look at a place less than 4 minutes from where I'm at right now. Price range, everything's perfect. I'm ready to go ahead and sign. So it makes a difference what we're putting here to come through. I'm excited. I'm very excited about reading this again, because I am seeing way too much negative stuff coming
Out of you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm in shock how many I'm embarrassed to even say how many of those, those nice long lists that he had, pages and pages of, I don't want to tell you how many of those I could relate to.
Well, I'd love to sit there and say that I don't have any of those either, but we all do.
We do.
And you have them more when you're tired. You have them more when you're hungry. It's always easier to fall into that when you're not at your best. But if you're not really putting the good stuff back in or speaking to yourself the way you would if it was your own friend who was struggling, then you're not going to be able to get out from under that. So hang on 1 second. I do see something in the chat. I just want to make sure.
Thanks, Juliana. I'll do that.
Yep. Perfect. I love that. All righty. Brandy, are you able to take us off mute and kind of walk us through where you're at?
Sure.
Awesome.
Okay. So one thing that's really interesting to me is I'm a believer. I don't know who is or who isn't, but I'm a believer. And so if it doesn't line up with God's word, then I just throw the book out. I don't, so to me, the scripture, what a man thinketh, so he is,
Mm-hmm.
makes so much sense. and because I am a senior Ruby, and I am been struggling for a while with really not believing that I'm good enough to be a Jewel, that I, don't look like the Jewels, or whatever it is. I believe negative things about myself, and I think that I do believe that now God is bringing me to this because I'm not ready to be a Jewel, because He has some things to do in me first.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I picked this one thing out of the book that I really thought that this is so exciting to me, that we actually, when we're saying things to ourselves, that our brain is actually like a computer, which is so interesting, and it's working to do what we say. So I took my phone. My book is on my iPad, which I'm on right now. So I had to take a picture of this, but I like that this what it says. It says the brain simply believes what you tell it most, and what you tell it about you, it will create. It has no choice. So I thought, it has no choice. So if I can put into practice, speaking positive affirmations about me, I think that I can do it about other people and all that. But I think that we believe so many lies as a result of childhood or whatever it is, and that Satan uses those lies to just dig deeper and dig deeper, and we have to replace those lies with the truth. And so I don't really necessarily believe in, that we can speak things into destiny, but I do believe it in a way. It's kind of one of those things where, obviously, if I say I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow, I don't think that's really going to happen. But I think that it's just so interesting that your brain is working to do what you tell it to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, to me, is that's kind of exciting news, because I think that something for me has had to change. Obviously, I've been a senior Ruby for, I don't even know how long now, but for a while, and I'm ready to move on to green. But I think that there's reasons why I haven't, and so I'm thinking it's my mind. My mind isn't set and isn't positive enough. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I kind of think.
Well, and that's exactly it. You're right? The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came so that I'd have and enjoy life and have it in abundance to the full until it overflows. And I think it's easy for us to say that. I think there's many of us who can quote scripture, but we don't necessarily believe it. And so when those negative thoughts come into our head, when we end up mulling on them, when we're confused, when we're worried, when we're struggling, when we're frustrated, those aren't God-centered. God doesn't give confusion. The devil gives confusion. And so if we speak to it correctly, and whatever it is, if it's not belief and you don't quote the Bible, whatever it is that you're putting back into your head, whenever you hear it, you speak the truth, and then it'll manifest in you. So I love that, Brandy. And I think we've all been in that boat. We're all in the thought process of figuring out what it is we needed to learn in order to get to that next step. There's not a single person that's on this call that doesn't struggle with, either not feeling worthy or feeling that there's something that they've missed, or what is it I'm supposed to grow from? And, and sometimes it's just as simple as maybe we stopped doing it just because we put it out there in the universe. Like you said, we've got to do it in order to get it to the next step, right? God may show us favor. God may put, things in front of us, but if we don't take hold of them and do it, it doesn't matter, right? Just as a crazy example, being a millionaire, maybe God put a lottery ticket in your hand and you didn't bother to scratch it. You know what I mean? It's some of those things that, it's as simple as that. Like the story where they talk about the guy who was, prepared to, I think it was drowning or whatever he was supposed to do. And he brought a plane and he brought a ship and he brought all this stuff back, and he was waiting for someone to pick him up and take him out. And instead, God kept giving him all these answers, and he just didn't go into it. So thank you so much, Brandy. I appreciate that. Beth, are you able to unmute us, or do you need me to unmute you? Hang on, let me unmute you. There you go.
I've never done this before, so I did not have my camera attached, and I finally figured out how to do that. So
No problem.
When I was reading this, I realized that we've been having some struggles with our kids and just a few things that have just not been going great lately. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I really need to change the way that I am speaking to my kids. And that's one thing, like last night, I just was like, wow, I mean, what a huge difference just, speaking belief into them rather than telling them no constantly. I have 4 small kids, 7, 6, 4, and 1. So it's easy to do, tell them no all day long. And that's really like just trying to instill in them those beliefs, because I don't feel like I ever really had anybody that ever told me any of those things. So that was just a huge eye-opener to me. And even this past weekend, we got home from Super Saturday on Sunday, and my husband said, our hot water heater broke. And I'm like, oh, figures, when it rains, it pours. And it's, like thinking back, it's those kinds of words coming out of my mouth that are because we've replaced appliances, we've replaced a hot water heater, and we have all these things. So, thinking about that, changing that mind frame of that we are stuck in this rut where we are just constantly not able to catch up, to changing that to whatever happens, we will be provided for. We have come across a wonderful plumber who's doing it for, probably less than we thought, about half as much as we thought we would be putting into it. But just bringing about those thoughts to counteract almost the negative thoughts has been really eye-opening for me. And I also liked how he put that you're a computer, and what you hear, see, taste, touch, feel all goes into shaping your actions and how you perceive the world. And that is, it all is so dependent on your thoughts, because your thoughts are also part of that as well.
I love that. Thank you, Beth. And I think you're exactly right. It's like we forget what we say to our children. There's times when, you don't want to be so over the top where you're telling your children like anything and everything, like they don't have to work for it. But, I mean, I was in the same boat. I mean, I think the generation of parents that I had, my mother came from another country, and she truly believed that by not letting me have any sort of accolades was really kind of the way to get me to achieve more. And to be honest, in some ways it kind of worked. But in other ways, I've constantly been craving people's approval that I didn't get from my mother, because my mother was always telling me I wasn't smart enough. You got 100, how come you didn't get 110? All those things that, we think we're giving them direction to move in the right way, but not always. Now, Marie, I see that you kind of joined us. I'm going to unmute you really quick. Welcome. How are you feeling, by the way? You feeling all healthy again?
I am good. I am feeling much better. Hold on, let me run outside. I was on the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. I was listening to last week's recording.
Oh, no worries.
And I was like, wait, this sounds really familiar.
You're like, I think I've watched this before. So
yeah.
So you've read the first 6 chapters. What's your biggest takeaway so far, and kind of what your thoughts are?
Okay, well, I haven't gotten through all 6, I'm going to be honest, but I will say I kind of agree with what Beth was just saying. With using our words properly, it just really resonated with me, and I agree with you. And my story. I had the same kind of mom with all of the negatives, and nothing was ever good enough. And you live with that head trash for a very long time. So this book is just amazing to jump into.
Good. And I think we're all feeling that this is something we definitely need, because I know, like you were saying, Norma, sometimes you have to go back to these things over and over again. I was talking with someone else on my team about, books like the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I've been through 3 different book studies, 1 with Plexus and 2 with work-related, day job things. And each time I got something different out of it. So again, if you've ever read this book, reading it again, you may hear from somebody when we're talking through these that's going to give you something that's going to resonate in your head and go, maybe there's the switch I needed. You know, I've been, you guys all know how much I love Tony Robbins, and I have done the Get the Edge program. I can't even tell you how many times. Now, not always do I manifest it and do it all the way that I should. A lot of times I listen to it and then I don't do what my exercises were. At least that's been in the past. This time I'm doing it and I'm getting all the exercises done, which is great. But I listen to the same recordings over and over and over again. And it's amazing that each time I listen to it, I get something new. So this is a chance for all of you to maybe get something new if you've read something or if you've read this book before. It's great. I love, Brandy, how you brought in kind of your thought process on As a Man Thinketh, because those are so many important things that we want to bring to this. It doesn't just need to always be about the book. Maybe it's something else that you've read or watched, or a video that maybe somebody posted, and you're able to bring back, hey, remember that video that Christy posted about blah, 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 or, you know, that Tamara posted, or Suzanne Clinton, or whoever it may be, and be able to bring it back so that it brings us and kind of centers it, so that we have a frame of reference and not just the book. Because if we're really going to study the book, it's not just the words that are in the book. It's what do they mean? How do we apply this? Maybe you hear something from Les Brown. Maybe you heard something from, you know, Victor Antonio, and you're like, oh my gosh, that video was perfect for this. And those are great because then they give a direction. Maybe Debbie goes back and goes, oh, let me watch that. Or you know, Irene says, that's awesome. I'm going to go back and read that article or something. So that's really all I have for you guys today. The first 6 chapters were pretty much just the basics, right? We're going to get into some meat as we get into the next 6 chapters. So next call may not be a complete round robin. It might be, I just kind of, you know, if there's something, you guys, that resonates with you, message me, post it in that group, and maybe we'll, you know, kind of push on you a little bit to kind of share a little bit about what you've kind of got from there. Juliana, is there anything you want to kind of add as we close this out? Oh, hang on, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Yes, I do want to add something. And yes, I did read the book before a long time ago, but I have what really, and as we get into the next few chapters, where he starts to give us different affirmations for different things. I went through last time and I highlighted the ones that really struck a chord with me. And I found this app, maybe you've used it before, it's called Think Up. And you can actually record affirmations, and it puts a music track in the back, and music pulls out emotion, right? And when you say these affirmations, you want to have emotion because that's what makes it stronger and sticks. So I listen to them at night while I'm sleeping so that it'll go into my subconscious mind. And I find myself, and I can listen to it all day long, like on my commute or whatever, and I find myself, those words start coming out of my mouth because you've heard the wrong thing so many times. You're this, you're that, you're that. And to have this in your head saying, I am such and such, I am such and such, over and over again, it starts to get down in there, and it just helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Think Up is a great app. And I think there's even one, if you're feeling saucy, you can pay for it. I think it's in there. They've got the free one, and then they've got the extension.
Yeah, I paid $10. I mean, I think it was $10 or $5 or whatever, but I did the free one to start with, but then it gives you more options. It
doesn't really allow for as much, I think. So yeah. Just a thought there. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I'm excited for what 2018 is going to offer you. I'm hoping that this group is going to help you guys get out of your head trash, get back into the game, tell yourself all the positive things that you know you can do, because you have probably already achieved a lot in your life and have definitely downgraded it in your head and made yourself believe it wasn't as important or as impressive as maybe you think it is. So have an amazing night, guys. Read your next 6 chapters. And I'll see you all next Wednesday. Take care.